Hey guys, Scott here. Today I want to go over how the new Myers, I believe, is weaker than the old Myers, which is saying something because old Myers was already one of the worst killers in the game, and in attempting to rework him and perhaps buff him, I feel like he is genuinely worse, and I'm finding it even harder to win with the killer now. Your experiences may differ, but I would like to explain with reasoning and experiences why I feel this is the case with the rest of this video. So, first off, let me establish a baseline of old Myers compared to new Myers. I need to go over what old Myers did that was strong and what the new Myers can do that is apparently strong, and go over how the old Myers was better in that regard. The main thing that the old Myers could do was, it was called 99 in your tier 2. So you had the same kind of Evil Within level up system that you have in the current version now, except when you went from tier 2 to tier 3, it was instant and you can just instantly hit somebody, and additionally you had a smaller radius in tier 2, so you can combine that with things like Monitor and Abuse and the add-on Dead Rabbit to basically have a 6 meter radius. Not basically, you would have a 6 meter radius, which when you're moving 4.6 meters a second gives the survivor basically 1 second of reaction time before they get to a window or pallet, which almost every time they were not going to be able to do unless the generator was like inside of a pallet or something like that. So with that, you could basically sneak up on the best player on the planet. It doesn't matter if they're the best looper that exists. If you don't hear or see anything, and then within 1 second he's on you and lunging at you and you're just dead, I don't care how good you are, you're going to die in a millisecond. Now, at the same time, that was terrible gameplay. You shouldn't be punished because your idiot Meg teammate just sat and let the Myers stalk to 99%. Then he sneaks up on you, he's got a tombstone piece, and he just kills you instantly. Like, that's terrible gameplay, so I understand why they wanted to change that, and I supported them wanting to change that. But what they gave in response was just not nearly enough to mitigate that strength that he lost. Now, make no mistake, that was his only strength. That was the only thing that made him able to down good players, but they took that away. Now he has no real mechanic to down good players at all, because now there's too many delays and warnings that give survivors plenty of time to get to a safe distance or a pallet or something like that. And that is what makes him so much weaker. Again, from a design standpoint, he is without a doubt far more interesting to go against, and that's good, I guess. But like I said, they didn't compensate enough to not make him absolutely terrible as a killer. So let's go over the things that he has gained now. First up, let's go over Pursuer mode. I think Pursuer mode is terrible. A lot of people are vastly overestimating this, or they're just straight up wrong with the numbers involving these things. So I want to go over specifically what actually changed with Pursuer mode. Pursuer mode is just basically tier 2, except you can switch back and forth to tier 1. Now, to a lot of people, this is a really, really cool benefit, and I can kind of understand that. To me, this is not as much of a benefit as you would think, because getting from tier 1 to tier 2 took with the previous version of Myers, if you did a max distance stalk at someone on a generator, it would take 3 seconds to get to tier 2, and you never had to worry about that for the rest of the game. You really did not have to worry about tier 1 at all with the previous version of Myers where they buffed the distant stalking. It was seriously, I think it was 3.5 or 3.6 seconds of a distant stalk to get to tier 2, and you wouldn't have to worry about it for the rest of the entire game. Now, you might say, oh yeah, but I like being able to switch back to stealth mode. The thing is, with a single perk or a single add-on, he already was the stealth mode. Like I said, with just a perk and add-on, you could get a 6 meter radius in tier 2, which again, is basically non-existent. That's basically 0 radius whatsoever. So I don't see this switching as much of a benefit, because I would run those and I would basically already have no radius at all. There would still be no time to react. The only true upside to having a true stealth form is your aura can't be read. So if there was an aura reading perk or something like that that would prevent you from being able to ambush the survivor, then in that scenario, being able to switch back and forth is better. But at the same time, we need to look at what we lost there. Now, tier 1 Myers is back to being 4.2 meters a second. He was briefly 4.4 by default, and that was really nice. So you could get out of tier 1 even faster, and again, not have to worry about that. Now he's back down to 4.2 unless you run an add-on to compensate for that loss. Really, the thing with Myers and these changes here is they gave him a decent amount of things, but they took more away than they gave to him. If you look at the actual change listing of buffs and nerfs, he actually got more nerfs than buffs, which is ridiculous because he was already one of the worst killers in the game. So let's go over actually the whole thing with Pursuer mode now. Pursuer mode. People are saying, oh man, it's crazy. You get a 20% longer lunge. You get 20% reduction in stun, 20% faster pallet breaking, 20% faster vault. All these things are crazy. That's so much better. Nah, not really. Let's actually look at what the numbers mean. Because The numbers are really the determining factor here. All of these things, in theory, are good ideas to make him a more relentless force when he's tearing up and stuff like that. I'm okay with that. In fact, I even support that design. But it's really a numbers game here. Let's go over what these things actually mean. He's got a 20% longer lunge in Pursuer mode. That's crazy. Not really. It's 0.1 seconds longer of a lunge. You go from 0.5 seconds to 0.6 seconds. If I played a video back-to-back of a 0.5 second lunge and a 0.6 second lunge, you would not be able to tell the difference. It is functionally imperceptible, the actual difference 0.1 second of lunges. Now, is it actually useless? No. Maybe 1 in 50 lunges you'll hit a hit that you normally wouldn't have hit, and that's great. That's not a power. That's not really much of anything. So let's go over the other things. Okay, so he can vault 20% faster. That's really nice. That is nice. Except old Tier 2 Myers also vaulted 20% faster. So many people think this is a buff. It's nothing. He always had a 20% faster vault in Tier 2. Now, admittedly, that's actually something I didn't know for a while as well. I didn't know Tier 2 Myers had a better vault for like 5 years. I thought it was just Tier 3 was better, but no, Tier 2 Myers actually vaulted 20% faster by default. So this is not an upgrade. It's just you're getting what you already had. So that is kind of a misleading thing too. It's not a buff. It's just you already had that. Let's look at a 20% reduction in stuns. That's nice because Enduring is a great perk. True. But Enduring is a great perk because of the number associated with it. A 50% reduction enables you to actually functionally do certain things. A 50% reduction, if you get stunned on the same side as the survivor, you can hit, get stunned, turn around, hit, and instantly down people. The 50% number makes that possible. You can't do that with 20%. Because that's a 1.6 second stun instead of a 1 second stun. They have enough time to fall back over the pallet, so you can't do that. Additionally, the full version of Enduring enables you to, like on unsafe pellets, get stunned and then just kind of walk around the pallet. You don't have to kick it. But a 20% reduction is not really quite enough for you to be able to get stunned and then walk around the pallet and be able to hit them. They'll likely just get around for another loop then. Like I said, all of these are just very specific to the actual values associated with them. You see 20% buff across the board, but then you actually look at what's happening and it's actually not having any tangible effect on the match whatsoever. It's just something when it happens, you go, oh, that's nice. But that's kind of really the only thing it's doing for you. The only thing that is a flat out upgrade is the 20% increased pallet kick speed, which is just nice. That's just you get brutal strength in Pursuer form. That's nice. That's it. That's kind of like the only tangible, true benefit you actually have. The vault is imperceptible, the vault speed is not a change at all, and the Enduring effect doesn't functionally change any actual impact when you're dealing with loops and double hits and getting Enduring stuns and things like that. So really the only thing you tangibly benefit from is the 20% faster pallet kick, which even then, Brutal Strength is like just an okay perk. Like having a mode that's just Brutal Strength is not much of really anything. That's just like, okay, that's not a power. Now, what we lost from that is far more impactful. So the Terradius, like I said, went from 16 meters to 24 meters. That is a massive, massive nerf that gives survivors several more seconds of time to react to you approaching. Now, you could also sneak up to them in the stealth form as well, but then the whole issue here is you lose that ability to go from sneaking up to someone into an instant down. You cannot do that anymore because of the lengthy wind-up animation of going from Tier 2 to Tier 3. So before we had a potentially 6-meter Terradius Tier 2, where you basically just, you couldn't react to that. He would instantly go to Tier 3 and you go down. Now you can kind of mimic that by 99ing your Stalker form and then going to Pursuer and then quickly going to Evil Incarnate. So you can kind of mimic that, but then you have to go through this lengthy animation. And not only do you have to go through this animation, but you also can't instantly attack because survivors are not exposed anymore. An attack, a melee M1 attack, is just basically one frame. You just hit them and they're just within one frame, they're down. With this new lunge, you have to charge it at least like a quarter of the way before you can actually let it go. And then it's also a special attack that doesn't have like instant damaging frames. You have to like let the charge go for a little bit and then it starts going. So when you're trying to sneak up to ambush somebody, not only do you have to transition into your form and look at your knife as they get to a window, but now you also can't immediately swing. You have to like wait for the bar to charge a bit and then you can swing. It just makes it so there's a delay and then a delay, which gives survivors exactly the right amount of time to get to, a window or a pallet or something like that. It's really the numbers of all of this that actually are so impactful here. Like in theory, when you describe these changes to somebody, you could say, oh, this sounds all great. But again, when you actually look at what's happening, it's terrible. Like, you can't ambush kill people anymore. They have enough time now to get to something, unless they're like in a generator in a dead zone or something like that, at which point, yeah, there's no difference. You would have get it down there regardless. But the delay and then the delay is, it gives survivors enough time to actually get somewhere, which means now you actually don't have that ability to ambush down anymore, and now you need to rely on something to actually have anti-loop, which he doesn't really have. He has Slaughtering Strike, which was also nerfed from the PTB. They made it even slower, and the charge goes less as well. So it was already kind of underwhelming on the PTB because the steering is also like worse than Pig's Ambush. It was just like a downgrade in every way other than the obvious one-shot there. But they made it even worse. I believe it was 7.1 meters a second on the PTB, and now it's 6.9, which is just lunging speed, which is Pig's Ambush speed, for example. So they made that slower, and it's not even like this is good anti-loop, because if you have a killer like Demogorgon, for example, you kind of have to respect it because Demogorgon's lunge is so fast. You can't just sit at the pallet and stun him in his lunge. You can try, but on anything but like 10 ping or something, what's going to happen is you're likely going to get hit kind of at the same time as you get the stun, or, you know, you're just risking that. It's far more risky because Demogorgon's lunge is so fast, but because Slaughtering Strike is so slow, I had good survivors on reaction stunning me. I wouldn't even break the pallet. They would just simply wait until I got long enough, or giggity. They would wait until I got close enough, and then they would just stun me. And I wouldn't get anything. I would get stunned, and then I couldn't break the pallet because then the power goes on cooldown for seemingly 25 minutes for no reason, by the way. There is no reason Slaughtering Strike should even have any cooldown. It's a glorified Pig Ambush. It shouldn't have a cooldown at all. The fact that it has like a 6-second cooldown is just it's such an unnecessary nerf that I don't understand why that exists. But the whole point is Slaughtering Strike is not a powerful ability at all. It would be kind of okay if it was really fast and then you could force, you know, pre-drops of a pallet to instantly chew through a bunch of pallets, but good survivors are just reaction stunning me every time, so it doesn't even do that. Additionally, the steering at the end is terrible. You get like full control for like the first half, but then the last half you're just kind of locked and you're just like, you get tetanus and you just like have to keep going in a straight line, so that's terrible. It's just not a good power. It's not at all a good compensation. So what a lot of people are doing now is just running Fragrant Tuft of Hair, which gives you old Myers, which is boring because you're not even using a rework anymore. You're just playing the old killer, except he's even weaker because now you can't even do the tier 2 to tier 3 instant down. Now you got to go through the Blade Observe animation, and then you got to charge the bar to even do it. So it's actually just straight up weaker than the older Myers. Like the lunge, I believe, is like 0.1 seconds longer than previously, which woo, but also like it's just not enough. Like none of these things are good. Like I legitimately think Fragrant Tuft of Hair makes him weaker than the old Myers because he loses that one really good ambush thing that he actually had. There's also the changes to stalking. Stalking is actually a flat amount now, which is kind of nice, and people are saying, oh, you move much faster while stalking now, which is true, you do. That is nice, but at the same time, you stalk significantly slower as you're moving. So really, it's kind of a placebo because you're actually effectively stalking slower than you used to because you would still be moving while stalking previously, but you wouldn't have a penalty for doing so. Now you do move a bit faster, but you're stalking like at, 25% less amount. So it seemed like I said, this is just a story of buffs with concessions that just override the buffs. That's all it is. Like, you get something that seems super nice, and then you get a nerf to just negate the nice thing you just got. That's like everything involving this killer is just that. Like, there are so many other things about him that are just unnecessary nerfs. Like, you can't even effectively use Pursuer mode as an alternate mode very well because your stock meter decays after a certain time. Again, for no reason. That's just such an unnecessary nerf. Like, why would your stock meter decay? They're treating him like he's some S-tier killer that needs some concessions or he's going to be too strong. That's such an unnecessary nerf. There's also the stalking music that's back as well. Previously, when the killer first came out, he had this music that played when you were getting stalked, and they removed it because it was kind of a nerf to the killer because it lets you know that you were being stalked, so then you go, oh shit, let me look around. Oh, there he is. Let me get behind a wall. So that would make him weaker. And while thematically cool, it makes him weaker because now when you're stalking people, you're in a scenario where it's like they know you're stalking now, so you're giving them a heads up and they're just going to be aware of it, and you're going to have less actual chances to abuse that fact and stalk them there. There's also Scratch Mirror. People are going, oh, Scratch Mirror is better now. Now you can move at 4.4 meters a second. And that's wonderful. And in theory, yes, that is true. That's great for Scratch Mirror. Except, again, it came at a time where there are no more guaranteed map offerings. And if you've ever tried to play Scratch Mirror on a map that's not like, Hawkins or Larry's, it's terrible. It is arguably like the worst add-on in the entire game. It's so fucking bad. Scratch Mirror against even decent players on a non-indoor map is awful. And because technically you move faster now in it, you're now 110% if you run the add-on with it. That's nice. But again, you don't have the map offerings to guarantee a map where it actually works anymore. So again, it's actually weaker than it was before. I would much rather have the old movement speed, but be able to guarantee an indoor map where I can maybe actually sneak up on people than have 5% faster and I'm on fucking rotten fields because I couldn't choose where I want to go. So I feel like even Scratched Mirror on average is now going to perform worse as well. Like everything about this rework is you gotta change and then you got a nerf along with that change when he just needed to be better across the board. He was a C tier killer that went from C tier to he's just C tier over here now. They didn't do anything. Like, they just changed the way he plays, but he's still exactly as shit or possibly even worse than he used to be because he lost that one good thing that could actually down good survivors with the ambush. Overall, I can't express how disappointed I am with this. Not only is it incredibly lazy, not thematic, and boring, but legitimately, I feel like he is weaker than before. It is actually painful to play the killer now. If you go against good teams, I can't even down good players anymore with him, when previously, like I said, I could at least ambush them and catch them off guard. I actually just straight up can't down good players with Myers anymore. It's like, I just can't do it anymore. So, I don't know. I'll probably give him a couple more tries, but I have yet to see a convincing argument from someone that knows what they're talking about that this rework is better. Because everyone I've talked to in my circle has said that he's actually just straight up worse. People on Reddit are, again, reading numbers and going, wow, he's better. But again, if you actually look at him in practice against good players, he is without a doubt worse. Maybe if you're a casual player and you're playing against other very casual players, they might not have had to deal with it and stuff like that. But that's hardly something that you can use as a balancing point. Because by that logic, I don't know, Skull Merchant's great because they don't know what the drones do, so everything's great. Like, you can't really use that as a balancing talking point, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to discredit casual players' experiences, but they don't really apply when we're talking about balancing discussions. So, overall, I think he's weaker. I think that he's just dog shit rework, just terrible on basically every regard. Theming, balance, just everything. So many concessions for no reason, terrible.